Have you ever lain awake at night, staring at the ceiling, while your mind runs faster than a Formula One car? One thought sparks another, then another, until you've created an entire movie in your head. And the worst part? None of it has even happened. That's the what-if cycle. What if I mess up tomorrow's presentation? What if they don't text me back? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I regret this forever? Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Overthinking often shows up as a constant storm of what-ifs. You start with one concern, but your brain doesn't stop there. It builds a dozen alternate realities, each more stressful than the last. Here's the truth. Overthinking feels like problem-solving, but it's not. It tricks you into believing you're preparing for every possible outcome, when in reality, you're just exhausting yourself. Think about it. How many times have you worried about something endlessly, only for the situation to turn out completely fine? Yet, in the moment, your body reacts as if the worst is guaranteed. Heart racing, stomach in knots, sleepless nights, all because of a thought spiral that may never even become real. Let me tell you a story. A young man was terrified of job interviews. Every time he got an invitation, instead of preparing calmly, he would spend days trapped in what-if thoughts. What if they hate me? What if I freeze up? What if they ask something I don't know? By the time he walked into the room, he was so drained from overthinking that he could barely focus. He wasn't failing because of his lack of skills. He was failing because his own mind sabotaged him before he even started. That's the cost of overthinking. It's not just mental, it's physical, emotional, and sometimes even life-changing. But here's the good news. Becoming aware of this pattern is the first step to breaking it. The moment you catch yourself spiraling in what-ifs, pause and ask, am I solving a real problem, or am I inventing problems that don't exist yet? That simple question can snap you back into reality. Because here's the secret. Most of your what-ifs are just shadows. They look scary, but they can't actually hurt you. Overthinking creates the illusion of control. But the only real control you ever have is in the present moment. So if you find yourself stuck in the endless what-if cycle, remember this. Your mind may be trying to protect you, but in the process, it's stealing your peace. And peace of mind is worth far more than preparing for imaginary disasters. Now let's go deeper. What happens when overthinking takes away your ability to make even the simplest decisions? That's the next sign. The decision-making paralysis. Picture this. You're standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at 15 different brands of cereal. It should be a 2-minute choice. Grab the one you like and move on. But instead, your brain turns it into a full-on debate. What if this one tastes bad? What if that one is healthier? What if I regret not trying the other brand? 10 minutes later, you're still standing there, paralyzed by a decision that really doesn't matter. That's what overthinking does. It magnifies even the smallest decisions into life or death dilemmas. Here's the kicker. It's rarely about the cereal or the shirt or the restaurant. It's about fear. Fear of regret. Fear of failure. Fear of making the wrong move. Overthinking convinces you that one wrong step will ruin everything. And because of that, you delay, you second-guess, and sometimes you avoid deciding altogether. But guess what? Not deciding is also a decision, and it usually costs you more than just making a choice and moving forward. Let me share a story. A woman once told me she spent 2 years deciding whether to start her own business. 2 years. Every day she thought about it, analyzed it, researched it, weighed the pros and cons. She convinced herself she was being careful and responsible. But deep down, she was stuck in decision-making paralysis. While she was overthinking, other people with less talent but more courage were starting businesses, learning as they went, and building their dreams. By the time she finally took action, she looked back and realized she hadn't been careful, she had been afraid. And fear disguised as logic is one of the most dangerous traps of overthinking. So how do you break free? Here's a powerful tool. Set a decision deadline. Instead of giving your brain unlimited time to spin, say to yourself, I will decide by 6 p.m. today. Once that time comes, you make the best choice you can with the information you have, and you move on. Will you always make the perfect decision? No. But here's the truth. Life isn't about perfect decisions. It's about progress. Every choice teaches you something. Even if you fail, you gain clarity and experience. And that's far better than staying stuck in limbo. The next time you catch yourself frozen by overthinking, remember this. Clarity comes from action, not endless analysis. Because at the end of the day, the cost of not deciding is often higher than the cost of making a wrong choice. Now, let's talk about another painful sign of overthinking, the way your mind replays the past like a broken record. The third sign is reliving the past on repeat. Do you ever replay a conversation in your head over and over? That moment when you said something awkward, or when someone hurt you, or when you made a mistake. You lie in bed at night, and your brain hits the rewind button. Why did I say that? What if they think I'm stupid? I should have done it differently. That's another sign of overthinking. You keep reliving the past, as if replaying it will change the outcome. But it never does. Here's the painful truth. Overthinking keeps you chained to moments that no longer exist. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. Inside are all your past mistakes, regrets, and awkward moments. You keep opening the bag, taking them out, and examining them again. No wonder you feel drained. The past is supposed to be a teacher, not a prison. But overthinking convinces you to stay locked inside. Let me share a story. There was a student who gave a presentation in class and stumbled on his words. He sat down embarrassed, and while everyone else moved on, he didn't. For weeks, he replayed that single moment, analyzing every sentence he messed up. The irony? Most of his classmates had already forgotten about it by the next day. But he couldn't let it go. His mind turned a small slip into a giant failure. That's what overthinking does. It magnifies the past until it feels bigger than your future. So, how do you break free from reliving the past? Here's a simple exercise. When a memory comes, don't fight it. Reframe it. Instead of asking, why did I mess up? Ask, what did I learn? Messed up in a conversation? Maybe it taught you to listen more. Failed a project? Maybe it gave you skills you'll use in your next one. Said the wrong thing? Maybe it showed you the importance of preparation. When you turn regret into a lesson, the memory loses its power to hurt you. It becomes fuel instead of a chain. And here's another truth. Most people aren't thinking about your mistakes as much as you think they are. Why? Because they're too busy overthinking their own. So if you've been replaying the past, it's time to let yourself off the hook. Forgive yourself, learn the lesson, and move forward. Because the only way to create a better future is to stop reliving the moments that already ended. But overthinking doesn't just tie you to the past. It also creates a desperate need for outside approval in the present. The next sign is that you need for constant reassurance. Have you ever noticed how, when you're overthinking, you keep asking people the same question over and over? Do you think I did the right thing? Are you sure you're not mad at me? Do you really think I'll be okay? That's not curiosity. That's overthinking in disguise. When your brain won't stop spinning, you start looking outside yourself for relief. You want someone else to tell you, yes, you're fine. Yes, you made the right choice. Yes, everything will work out. And while reassurance feels good in the moment, it never lasts. The relief fades, the thoughts come back, and you find yourself asking again. This cycle is exhausting for you and for the people around you. Think about it. A friend says, don't worry, you did great. For a minute, you feel calm. But then your mind whispers, what if they're just saying that? What if they don't really mean it? So you ask again, and again, and again. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much reassurance you pour in, it never feels full. Let me share a story. A young woman constantly worried about whether her boyfriend truly loved her. Even when he said, I love you daily, she would still ask, are you sure? Do you really mean it? What if one day you stop? At first, he reassured her patiently. But over time, the constant questions wore him down. She wasn't lacking love. She was lacking trust in herself. That's the danger of overthinking. It doesn't just drain your own peace. It can strain relationships too. Because no amount of reassurance from the outside can quiet the storm inside. So how do you stop relying on reassurance? Here's a shift that changes everything. Learn to reassure yourself. The next time doubt creeps in, instead of asking others, try saying, even if I made a mistake, I'll handle it. I don't need certainty to move forward. I trust myself to figure things out. When you start giving yourself the reassurance you crave, you become less dependent on others to calm your mind. And that's real freedom. Because here's the truth. No one else can give you peace of mind. They can support you, yes, but peace has to come from within. Now, we've explored the signs of overthinking, the what-if cycle, decision-making paralysis, reliving the past, and the need for reassurance. But here's the most important part. How do you break free? The fifth sign that you are turning awareness into action. So now you know the signs, the endless what-ifs, the decision-making paralysis, replaying the past, and constantly seeking reassurance. But knowledge alone isn't enough. Awareness is the first step, but action is what sets you free. Because here's the truth. Overthinking won't stop on its own. You can't wait for the day when your mind magically quiets down. You have to train it. Think of your mind like a muscle. If you keep exercising the what-if muscle, it grows stronger. But if you start exercising focus, presence, and action, that's what grows instead. So how do you shift from awareness to action? Let's break it down. 1. Limit your thinking time. Give yourself a set window to think things through, 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes. Write down your thoughts, analyze your options, and when the timer ends, decide and move forward. This creates boundaries for your mind, so it doesn't run wild all day. 2. Take small, imperfect actions. Overthinking thrives on perfectionism. It whispers, wait until you're 100 sure. But progress doesn't come from being sure. It comes from moving anyway. Choose one small action you can take today. Not next week. Not after you've researched more. Today. Because once you take a step, the next one becomes clearer. 3. Practice mindfulness in simple ways. Mindfulness isn't just meditation. It's choosing to be fully present in the small moments. When you eat, focus on the taste. When you walk, notice the rhythm of your steps. When you breathe, feel the air filling your lungs. Every time you return to the present, you're breaking the habit of living in the past or the future. 4. Replace questions with affirmations instead of asking endless what-ifs. Start affirming truths. I don't need to control everything. I trust myself to handle challenges. I'm bigger than my thoughts. Your mind listens to the words you repeat. Feed it certainty, not fear. 5. Remember, progress, not perfection. Breaking free from overthinking isn't about never worrying again. It's about worrying less, catching yourself quicker, and choosing action more often than not. Even a 10 reduction in overthinking can feel like breathing again after being underwater. Imagine what 50 could do for your life. Here's the truth. Overthinking steals time, energy, and opportunities. But it's not who you are. It's just a habit. And habits can change. Every time you choose to act instead of overthink, you're rewriting your story. You're proving to yourself that peace of mind isn't some distant dream. It's something you can create right here, right now. So let me leave you with this. You are stronger than your thoughts. You don't have to believe every what if. You don't have to stay stuck in indecision. You don't have to keep replaying the past. You can breathe. You can decide. You can move forward. And the moment you do, you'll realize peace was never out there. It was always inside you, waiting for you to choose it. So, if you've recognized yourself in these 5 signs, here's your challenge. Don't just watch this video and move on. Take action. Start small. Catch yourself in the what-if spiral. Make that decision you've been delaying. Forgive yourself for the past. And most importantly, trust yourself more than your doubts. Because the truth is, the more you practice letting go of overthinking, the lighter, freer, and more confident you become. If this video spoke to you, hit that like button so more people can find it. Share it with a friend who needs to hear this today. And don't forget to subscribe, because every week I'll be sharing more tools and stories to help you step out of your head and into your best life. And one last thing, drop a comment below and tell me, what's one thing you tend to overthink the most? I'd love to hear your story, and you never know, your comment might just inspire someone else to finally let go. Remember, you are stronger than your thoughts, and your best life begins the moment you stop overthinking and start living.